After losing in embarrassing fashion to the Minnesota Timberwolves in round one, there was still hope on the horizon that the Lakers would be able to retool and potentially become legitimate contenders in the 2026 season. At least, that's what I thought, but the Lakers apparently seem to disagree. They recently have come under new management, which usually means some wacky shakeups in today's NBA, usually for the worse. In this case, it seems ownership wants to take a longer-term approach to building this roster, one that does not include LeBron as a part of that future given his age. Despite this, LeBron picked up his player option, but not without pairing it with a kind of cryptic statement from his agent Rich Paul. LeBron knows the Lakers are building for the future, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. That's something. I'm kind of tired of doing this "are the Lakers trading LeBron" thing because we've had so many false alarms at this point, but all signs point to the Lakers looking at 2027 free agency as their North Star, meaning they don't have real championship aspirations until 2028, when LeBron will be 43 going on 44. There's a lot to talk about here, and this intro is already running long, so let's just get into it. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you would like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. The first thing that I want to talk about right out of the gate is, does this timeline approach for the Lakers even really make sense? Like, what is so special about 2027's free agency class? Well, there are two main guys who are set, at least, to be available in 2027. Just some little-known guys like, Nikola Jokic and Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka, at least in my opinion, the two best players in the NBA. I will admit, if they could get either of these guys to pair with Luka, and certainly if it was at all possible to get both of them to pair with Luka, then yeah, I see the vision. If Giannis, Jokic, and Luka is a possibility 3 years from now, fuck whatever the hell LeBron wants. I understand that point of view. But there's a whole lot of caveats here. First of all, straight up signing free agents is just kind of not a thing anymore. Part of that is because of how teams have managed their salary cap in this new salary landscape in the NBA, and the Lakers can very deliberately move things in their favor, but that does not mean it will not come with a whole lot of challenges and hurdles. PG, Paul George, to Philadelphia is the most anyone has made, like, just signing an outright contract in free agency since Kawhi Leonard went to the Clippers in 2020. Superstar dudes, star players, do not just sign with a new team. They're more often than not getting traded or signed and traded. The odds are that Jokic and Giannis will have gotten extensions by the time the 2027 offseason comes around. That's usually how these guys operate. That's usually how superstars operate. There are, of course, the perpetual rumors that Jokic wants to play with Luka, but you are banking a lot on that particular rumor. You're banking a lot on that here. Both players, Giannis and Jokic, will also be entering their mid-30s by this point. I believe they'll be about 32 going on 33 when you would be bringing them in. So it's worth mentioning that you're also drawing out this 2-year plan for something that's going to work for like 5-ish. You know, maybe Jokic and Giannis would still be top 5 players by the age of 40, but we need to treat LeBron doing that like an exception, not the rule. So doubtful that you're getting more than half a decade of play out of this move. That said, that is ample opportunity to bring a championship to the Lakers, so it's still a decent window. But obviously, LeBron would not like it if they went in this direction because it completely ignores him in this equation, and we're going to talk about some of his trade possibilities in a second. But what I'm confused about is, why exactly would Luka be all that thrilled for this? Why would he be down to put his career on pause for such a long period of time? Because Luka is 26 years old, which means he's not old in the NBA, but he's also not like super young. He's entering his prime years now, and generally dudes tend to enter their prime years about when they start to contend. Now, he was in the finals a year ago, so he's already gotten a taste of what that looks like. Then he gets traded to this Lakers team just to be told that he has to play 2.5 meaningless seasons before the team can get him another guy, before he can even really be in consideration for being a contender. That is asking a lot. Why would he not just take the control of his own destiny at that point? Because he will be 29 by the time LA would have put a contender around him in this ideal set of circumstances. And there's a very, very, very real chance that he waits out all that time just for them to strike out on Jokic and Giannis. And at that point, I'd be really pissed if I was Luka. So who else would be available then? Maybe there's a way to mend that by signing other players. Well, for the most part, the names are dudes who are just going to be old as dirt by then. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis. It'd be really funny if they signed Anthony Davis after trading the guy for him just to get him years later. But as of, some guys who are not too old that actually would be nice gets. Well, you have Donovan Mitchell, who I think would play well with Luka, even if I don't think that's the most ideal fit. Trae Young would be a really awkward one. I don't think that would work, but he would be about 28, 29 as well, just like Luka. Karl Anthony Towns. And then there's kind of a pretty big step down when we're talking about guys like Tyler Hero, Zach LaVine, and Brandon Ingram. It's not like an extremely deep free agency class. The top two guys are just really, really good. And it is worth mentioning again that all of these guys, among them, probably 2 or 3 of them at least, are also going to have contract extensions. They probably will not be entering free agency in that offseason because no one actually enters free agency anymore except for role players. The real home run, of course, would be the possibility of signing both Jokic and Giannis, or signing Jokic or Giannis and then another all-star. That would be great. But obviously, if you could create the Euro Big Three in LA of Giannis, Jokic, and Luka, it would be the most talented, most stacked Big Three in NBA history. It would be 3 of the 5 best players in the NBA probably by that point. So that would be awesome. That is a possibility that I understand being enticed by, but it's also a real stretch. And I also don't think that it fits the personality types of Jokic and especially Giannis. I could see Jokic being like, Denver's not all that much right now. I'm kind of tired of this. Let me go to LA, play with my boy Luka. That I could possibly see a little bit. Giannis, though, is notoriously anti being friendly with other superstar players in the league. And he's also not a guy who cares about being in some big LA market. Jokic is also not a guy who really cares about that, at least as far as we are aware. So I don't know. I really can't see it. The Lakers are putting all of their eggs in this singular basket, and I don't know if you're familiar with the expression, but it usually is not a good idea. Being the Lakers, they could bullshit their way into making this work anyways. That is the magic, that is the privilege that you get with the Lakers, of they can just kind of figure it out even if it shouldn't technically make sense. That's how we got Luka here in the first place. I would give them a better chance at landing this insane home run swing way more than any other franchise in the NBA. But that doesn't mean that it isn't still a pretty out there way of going about building this team. It is still presenting major risks. And I have to imagine it's a very tough sell to pitch to Luka. I certainly wouldn't want to be hearing that shit if I was him. So I don't know. That seems bad. But then we get to the LeBron stuff. And that's where the whole situation is just kind of awkward. LeBron at the price point of $52 million is quite a lot to ask a team to take on, even as good as he is. So there needs to be the right team with the right amount of motivation to make this deal work. They need to simultaneously want it and have the stuff to facilitate it. LeBron also has a no trade clause, so he has all the power in deciding if he's going somewhere or not. As long as the other team is interested, the other team has the trade package that technically works, he can be like, all right, send me there. for literally just matching contracts. I know I'm LeBron, but I don't want them to give up real assets. That's the power you give players with a no trade clause, and also with him at the age that he is, with the Lakers having the reputation for taking care of superstars as a franchise. Maybe new ownership would look at it differently, but I'm quite confident that LeBron would go exactly where LeBron wants to go for exactly what LeBron wants to go for, as long as the other team is also privy to that, and I think there are quite a few teams that would be. The number one team that sticks out to me every time this conversation has come up over the last couple of years is the Cleveland Cavaliers. In order to do this, they would have to trade DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, and Lonzo Ball, plus probably Dean Wade as well, because I believe they're in a close salary situation. The Cavs are also over the second apron, so I think they'd actually have to trade one of those guys to like the Nets first or something like that. But again, this is doable. It would require some tough book work, but I do think the contracts are there. Obviously, the first thing that sticks out about this is the novelty of having LeBron back on the Cavaliers, but I also genuinely feel like this is a move that would make them a better team. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen is a fire starting lineup. A big, versatile wing is also pretty much the number one thing that I said they should be looking to go after this offseason. Who better to fit the bill of versatile wing than the king of versatile wings himself? Literally just a dude called the king anyways. Like, it would just be so fucking sick to have him on this team. Now, 3.5 rotational pieces for one 41-year-old player is a tough sell, but then you also have to take into consideration how wide open the Eastern Conference is, and when you do that, I think it makes a ton of sense. The Cavs should already be the favorite to come out of the East, in my opinion, but it's not like it's anywhere near a guarantee. It's certainly not like they're the favorites by a landslide. I think the Knicks, with a new coach and their added depth, could be right up there with them. The Orlando Magic. I also feel very highly about the Orlando Magic after the Desmond Bane trade, after signing Tyus Jones. After their draft, I like what the Magic are doing. So those are teams that could potentially get in that conversation. But I think if you do add LeBron, I think that would be the move that just all but guarantees that they make it out of the East. And the thing that would be so narratively satisfying about that, obviously him in Cleveland is the big thing, but also as much as it might be reductive, how much of a flex would it be for LeBron to be like, I left the East after making the finals 11 straight years or whatever the fuck, and then I left, came back, first year I'm back, we're back to the finals again. Like, that's just cool. I'm sorry to do the fan fiction thing, but with LeBron, it's kind of hard not to do that. Another obvious one is the Golden State Warriors. In order to do that, it would have to include Draymond Green, so the besties wouldn't be able to play together, but the besties who we actually like would play together, and I think that would be cool as hell. When it comes to a figure like LeBron, it is really hard to look at the pure objective basketball of it all and not just be like, LeBron on the Cavs again? Rad as hell. LeBron playing with his biggest rival? Fucking rad as hell, man. I want to see it. It would be very cool. A LeBron, Steph, Jimmy Butler big three with shooters and a real center, possibly Al Horford, who's been rumored. That is really, really intriguing to me. As far as some other possible teams, I think if you're trading for LeBron, you are explicitly saying that we can win the championship this year, and they, of course, need to have the proper contracts to throw into the deal. Due to his age, I don't think LA should be expecting to get back great players or picks, mostly guys who are at least a little bit overpaid, and I don't think it would make sense for a team with a lot of young players to trade for LeBron as well. So as for a list of teams who could do this, the Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Houston Rockets. The Nuggets could do a Jamal Murray swap. That would be interesting. It would definitely be a more short-sighted move, but you could pitch me on that working in a year or two and making enough sense, also just being a way to purely get out of that Jamal Murray contract, which is a lot of money, even if Jamal did have a lot of good moments in these playoffs yet again. The same type of logic would apply with Fred VanVleet of the Houston Rockets. You can more or less just make that swap happen straight up, and I mean, fuck it, just play LeBron at point guard. Why not? Play him, Amen Thompson. They can both do the ball handling. That would be interesting. Like Kevin Durant and LeBron teaming up in Houston as old ass men would certainly be an arc that wasn't on my bingo card, but it'd be a pretty damn cool one to see nonetheless. The Bucks are only here because, again, LeBron can more or less decide where he's going, and perhaps a Kuzma, Portis, plus like 3 other dudes on the Bucks who are making $3 to $5 million in a package could get the job done. LeBron gets to end his career with Giannis? I don't know. That honestly makes kind of less sense now that I'm saying this out loud. It makes a little bit less sense now that I'm thinking about it, because even though he's better and the conference is weaker, if you're gonna just be on a team that's not very good besides for the superstar you're next to, well, then you might as well do it in Los Angeles with Luka Doncic. So, I don't know. Not really, actually, but wouldn't that'd be something. The Knicks would have to trade OG Anunoby as well as a few smaller contracts, but a big 3 of Brunson, LeBron, and Cat in the Big Apple, again, passes the is it a cool outcome test with flying colors. The Clippers are the last one I wanted to mention because it weirdly makes a lot of sense for every party involved. The Lakers can get back some solid players in Norm Powell and Derrick Jones Jr., who will be expiring by the time 2027's free agency would be available. Same goes for Bogdan Bogdanovic, who would also be in the move. And then LeBron doesn't have to move, change his teams, but he doesn't have to change anything about his life, period. It's just a new franchise, just new team. So that would make sense. It could work. I don't know. Maybe. The idea of Kawhi and Harden and Zubats with LeBron on top of it, it's not too shabby. There's also still a couple of solid role players in that equation. But all this speculation aside, I wouldn't blame LeBron if he just said, fuck it. I'm just going to do my farewell tour this year and leave the Lakers franchise in Luka's hands. But if what Rich Paul said was serious, not some hollow expression like statements like this have been in the past, then I see a little reason why LeBron wouldn't want to leave. What is to be gained? Other than if he's just like, my career's done. Let me just play with this team one more year. If he actually is serious about wanting to win it all, then I don't really think it's going to happen this year, man. Not if the focus is so much on free agency 2 years from now. I can't say that I blame the Lakers for going in this direction, because building a contender around LeBron and Luka certainly wasn't going to be easy, but I thought it was a real possibility, one that was worth trying, but they just don't seem to agree with me on that. So that stinks a little bit, because I was looking forward to the idea of LeBron and Luka playing together being seen as more than just some cool thing that happened. But it's probably going to be left at just that. I don't know. Let me know what you think if you are a Lakers fan. I think that banking so much on the 2027 offseason is kind of a wild decision, one that I understand finding tempting, but I think it's one that the magnitude of the risk just is not worth dealing with. I sure as hell hope that Luka is okay with this, because otherwise the Luka miracle getting in LA is just going to turn into a Luka nightmare. And it's going to be a nightmare for me too, because the Mavericks are kind of on the upswing. And if I have to hear contrarian ass takes because the Luka trade technically aged poorly, I'm going to be mad. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like. Shout out to Rudy or Nick. I'm not sure who's editing this video, but shout out to them for editing it, and goodbye.